The Whispering City, The Curse of the Shadow. Aidan Cross, a young journalist with a passion for uncovering the unknown, sat hunched over his desk late one stormy evening. His mind wandered, restless as always, wondering if he would ever stumble upon the big break that could propel him into the world of serious investigative reporting. His eyes scanned the cluttered mess of papers around him, trying to avoid the growing realization that his life was stuck in the mundane. The only excitement came from letters, unremarkable correspondence from editors, or tips about minor stories. Then, it came. A peculiar envelope slipped under the door. The paper was heavy, worn with age, and sealed with a dark wax that was imprinted with an emblem: a raven perched atop a twisted tree. The handwriting was elegant, almost haunting in its grace. Aidan broke the seal, his heart racing in curiosity. The letter read, "Come to the Whispering City. Find what's hidden in the shadows of time before the curse awakens. You will know the truth, but it may be too late for you to escape." A photograph was tucked within the letter, a city veiled in thick fog, crumbling stone buildings barely visible in the mist. The image stirred something within Aidan's gut, something he couldn't ignore. He had to know more. With a heart full of both excitement and fear, he booked a ticket to the city, not knowing that this decision would change his life forever. Aidan arrived in the city on a gray, overcast morning. The streets were eerily silent, save for the soft echo of his footsteps on the damp cobblestones. The buildings loomed around him like ancient sentinels, their facades weathered and worn. A mist hung in the air, swallowing the edges of the city. He felt as though he had stepped into another time, something distant and forgotten. The people, too, seemed strange. Their eyes avoided contact, their movements cautious, almost robotic. They walked swiftly, their heads down, and there was an unspoken tension in the air. It was as if everyone had something to hide. Aidan checked into an old inn on the outskirts of town, run by an elderly woman named Eleanor. She greeted him with a warm, yet weary smile. Her hair, a faded shade of silver, framed a face etched with lines of worry. The moment Aidan mentioned his purpose for coming to the city, Eleanor's expression faltered. "You shouldn't have come here, Mr. Cross," she whispered, her voice quivering. "There are some stories better left untold." Aidan, ever the skeptic, brushed off her warning. But he couldn't shake the strange unease that crept into his thoughts as he lay in the dark, listening to the eerie silence of the inn. That night, a whispering sound filled the room, too soft to make out any words, but its presence was undeniable. The sound seemed to come from the very walls themselves. Determined to uncover the truth, Aidan spent the next few days scouring the city's forgotten library. It was a dusty, neglected place, but it held the key to the city's long-hidden secrets. The librarian, an elderly man named Mr. Howell, was reluctant to speak about the city's history, but after much coaxing, he handed Aidan a heavy leather-bound tome. Its pages were brittle, yellowed with age, and filled with cryptic writings. The book told of Victor Blackwood, a sorcerer who arrived in the city during the 1600s. A brilliant yet dangerously ambitious man, Blackwood sought knowledge that was forbidden by the ancient texts of magic. His obsession with immortality led him to summon the Shadow, a dark, malevolent entity that was said to dwell in the spaces between time and reality. According to the book, Blackwood's ritual went horribly wrong. Instead of gaining control over the Shadow, he had unknowingly unleashed it upon the city, causing a curse that would bind the residents to the entity. The curse would feed on their souls, trapping them in an endless cycle of rebirth and death. Each time the shadow grew stronger, the curse would repeat itself. As Aiden delved deeper into the city's lore, he began to experience strange occurrences of his own. The whispers, once faint, grew louder and more persistent. He found himself constantly looking over his shoulder, feeling as if unseen eyes were watching his every move. The air grew heavier with each passing day, thick with the weight of an unspeakable force. The locals, too, grew more fearful. Aiden met Samuel, a middle-aged man who had lived in the city his entire life. He spoke of the whispers that had plagued the city for centuries, of people vanishing into the mist, never to return. Samuel told Aiden that his own family had suffered the curse. His ancestors had been among the first to fall victim to the shadow's wrath. But there was more. Samuel warned Aiden that those who sought to break the curse would become part of the curse themselves. Their souls would be bound to the city, unable to leave. As Aiden heard these words, he felt the icy grip of dread wrap around his heart. As the full moon drew nearer, Eleanor finally revealed the truth to Aiden. She confessed that her family had been entrusted with guarding the dark secrets of Blackwood Manor, the location of the ritual that had unleashed the shadow. For centuries, her ancestors had kept the entity at bay, using ancient spells and rituals to contain its power. However, over time, the magic weakened, and the shadow had begun to stir once again. "Please," Eleanor begged, her voice strained. "You don't know what you're up against. The shadow is ancient, more powerful than anything you can imagine. The only way to stop it is to return to Blackwood Manor and complete the ritual. But the price of doing so, it's unimaginable. You will become part of the curse." Aiden, now fully understanding the danger he faced, was torn. Should he turn back and leave, abandoning the city to its fate? Or should he face the shadow head-on and risk his own soul to break the curse? With no choice left, Aiden made his way to Blackwood Manor, the decaying mansion at the edge of the city. The air was thick with an unnatural chill as he crossed the overgrown grounds. The mansion stood before him like a sentinel, its windows dark and hollow. Inside, the house was alive with the echoes of the past. The walls whispered in a language long forgotten, and the air grew heavy with the stench of decay. The deeper Aiden went into the mansion, the more oppressive the atmosphere became. Shadows twisted and stretched, as though reaching for him. A hidden door, concealed beneath the floorboards, led Aiden to the chamber where the ritual had taken place centuries ago. There, on an ancient stone altar, lay Victor Blackwood's journal, the final piece of the puzzle. As Aiden began to decipher the journal's final passages, the room grew colder still. The air crackled with energy, and a low hum vibrated through the ground. Suddenly, the shadows in the room began to move, swirling like smoke in a fire, and the shadow took form, an entity of pure darkness, its eyes glowing with malice. "You dare challenge me, mortal?" The shadow's voice was like the hiss of a serpent, its presence suffocating. Aiden's mind raced. The incantation in the journal was his only chance to break the curse. He knew that to succeed, he would have to confront the shadow head-on and bind it once more. As he recited the words, the room shook, and the ground beneath him cracked open. The shadow roared in fury, trying to stop him, but Aiden pushed on. With the final utterance of the incantation, a blinding light filled the room, and the shadow shrieked in agony. Its form began to unravel, its presence dissolving into the ether. The curse, which had plagued the city for centuries, was broken. But as the light faded and the city was freed from the shadow's grip, Aidan collapsed, his strength drained. Eleanor, who had followed him into the manor, found him unconscious but alive. The curse had been broken, but the cost was steep. Aidan's soul, forever entwined with the city, would never be free of its whispers. Years passed, and the city slowly began to heal. The fog lifted, and the streets were once again filled with life. But every now and then, a shadow would flicker at the edge of someone's vision, and the faintest whisper would carry on the wind. Aidan Cross, the man who had saved the city, was remembered in hushed tones, a ghost in the city's dark history. And in the quiet corners of Blackwood Manor, beneath the floorboards, the journal lay, waiting for the next person brave, or foolish, enough to seek its knowledge. If you enjoyed this story, please like and share the video with your friends. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more amazing stories and helpful lessons. Let's know in the comments what you think, and share your thoughts or any new words you've learned. Keep practicing, and I'll see you in the next video.